Alright, it's been a very long time since I posted the last video. Today we are going to solve this SQL problem, which is users by average session time. I have solved this problem and this is really interesting problem. So let's try to understand the question and I will explain you my solution to solve this problem. So we are given one table called Facebook web log, and we need to calculate each user's average session time, where a session is defined as the time difference between a page load and a page exit. Assume each user has only one session per day. If there are multiple page load or page exits events on the same day, use only the latest page load and the earliest page exit. Only consider sessions where the page load occurs before the page exit on the same day. Output the user ID and their average session time. So what this question states is we need to calculate the average session time, and based on the assumption that the user has only one session per day. So even though there are multiple page load or page exit events on the same day, we need to take the latest page load and earliest page exit, and we need to calculate the difference between the page load and page exit, and we need to calculate the average for each user. So we need to output the user ID and their average session time. Basically, we need to group by a user ID, and we need to group by the date, because we need to find the latest page load for each day, and we also need to find the earliest page exit for each day for each user. So this will be the approach. Basically, we group by user ID and date, and we take the latest page load, which will be the maximum of the timestamp. So if we look at the table preview here, you can see that these are the three columns that we have: user ID, timestamp, and action. And you can notice that there are additional actions as well, which we do not care. So we care about page load and we care about page exit. So basically we will filter the action based on the page load and based on page exit, and we find the latest timestamp for the page load and earliest timestamp for the page exit, and we will take the difference between those two timestamps, and we take the average by grouping by user ID. So this will be the approach to solve this problem. So what we need to do is we need to create two separate CTEs, one for page load and other for page exits. So let me write the first CTE here, which will be for page loads. So I will be naming this as loads. So here what we need is we need to get the latest timestamp for each day. We will take the table name, and here we filter the action with page load. After filtering the action, we need to group by user ID and timestamp, and we need to group by the date in the timestamp in order to get the latest uh, time for the given date. So we will use group by user ID, and we need to take the date from the timestamp, So by doing this, we are grouping by user ID and date of the timestamp. So now what we can do is we can select the columns that we need, which will be user ID. We need to get the date. So let me create, I will be writing this as day. Now we need the maximum of the timestamp. So I will write max of timestamp as load time. So we now got the latest page load for each day after grouping by each user ID and date. So this is the end of the first city. The next city that we are going to write will be same as the first one, but the only difference is this will be for the exits. So exits as for this we need to take the minimum because we need to find the earliest page exit. So this I will be writing it as exit time, and this will be page exit. So we now got our cities ready. So what we need to do now is we need to join these two cities, and we just need to find the difference between the exit time and the load time, and we need to take the average of that. And one more condition that we need to consider is we need to only consider sessions where the page load occurs before the page exit. So what we need to do now is we need to join these two cities that we have created. So first will be loads L. I will use the inner join, and I will use the second table exits as E on L dot user ID is equal to E dot user ID, and we also need to make sure that we are taking the difference between page load and page exit for the same day. So that is why we will be taking the day. That is why we have created the day column here. So we can just write as L dot day is equal to E dot day. So here we need to filter out the we need to filter the final result by considering this condition, which is page load occurs before the page exit. So for this I will be writing it as L dot load time is less than E dot exit time. This will filter out all the rows based on this condition, and at the end we need to group by the user ID. Here we need to write it as L dot user ID. So now our final result will be to select L dot user ID, and we need to take the average of the difference between the exit time and the load time. Exit time will be more because it will be the later time, and load time will come first. So we need to take the difference between exit time, which will be E dot exit time minus L dot load time, and I will be writing the column name. The column name will be average session duration, and here we need to make sure that our result is coming in as seconds. So for that I will be writing this as extract. So the difference will come as a timestamp, but generally it will be coming as seconds. But to make sure that our code is accurate, we can write it as epoch from this difference. So this epoch is basically to get the difference in the form of seconds. So this should give us the expected result. Let me run this code and see if we get any errors. There is some issue here. I forgot to close this bracket for extract. So this is for average and this is for extract. So now our code should work correctly. Let's run it again and see if we get the correct output. So you can see that our code is working as expected and we are getting the accurate expected output. Let me submit and see if we get the correct answer. So you can see that this is solved and it is accepted. So I hope you have understood this approach. It is simply taking the load time separately in the form of a CTE and taking the earliest exit time for each user ID and for each date. And after that, we just need to take the difference between the exit time and load time, and we take the average by grouping by the user ID. So this is an interesting problem to solve. That is all in this video. I will see you in the next one.